Okay, boys, now today we're looking at some further number patterns, okay? So we need to continue the sequence we see in each question, and we need to write down what our rule is. So add a certain amount or subtract a certain amount. So here we have the first three numbers of the sequence. We have 1, 4, and 7. So what we need to find is the difference between each of these numbers and see, is it the same? Okay, so if it's the same between each of these, then we know that between each of the subsequent numbers, the following numbers, it will all be the same. So here, the difference between 1 and 4 is plus 3. And here, the difference between 4 and 7 is plus 3. So we add 3 each time. So our rule is add 3. We write down what 7 plus 3 will be 10, 10 plus 3 will be 13, and so on. Now let's look at our next one here, okay? So we need to see what's the difference between 1 and 2? 1. Between 2 and 4 is 2. Between 4 and 8 is 4. So what's happening here? They're not all the same. It's 1, it's 2, it's 4 here. So what's a rule? Do you notice that the difference between each number doubles each time? So double the difference between the numbers. So the difference between 1 and 2 is 1, and then the difference between 2 and 4 is 2, and the difference between 4 and 8 is 4. So the difference between 8 and the next number will be 8, and the difference between the next number and the number after that will be 16, and the difference between this number and this number will be 32. Okay, so let's see our next question here. So we have 1, 3, and 9. So in the next one, to look at the difference between the first number, number 1, second number, number 3. So the difference between them is 2 plus 2 to go from 1 to 3. Then the difference between 3 and 9, 6 plus 6. So we've gone plus 2 plus 6. So what we're doing is we're multiplying the difference by 3 each time. So the difference is getting 3 times bigger each time. D, here we have 96, our next number is 48, and our next number is 24. Now, what is the difference between 96 and 48? Is it a repeating pattern of subtraction because 48 is less than 96? And there's 48 between the two of them, okay? So 96 minus 48 gives you 48. Now our next number then, so is it minus or subtract 48? Well, if we took away 48, our next number should be 0, so it's clearly not that. What's the difference between 48 and 24? So 48 and you take away 24 is 24. So what can you see here that 96 is actually, you cut it in half, and you have 48, divide 48 by 2, and you get 24. Divide 24 by 2, and then you'll start to see these. So what you're doing is halving the number each time. So keep halving the number down as for the next 3 and see how you get. So our rule there would be halving the number each time. Okay, so I'm going to leave you away with these ones now and see if you can try and figure out the last 4 here. Now I'm sure up to now, sorry about that, I'm sure up to now you have been challenging yourself. This is a further challenge here, and the challenge that we're being presented with is using fractions, okay? So here we have a half, we have 1, we have 1 and a half. Now what is the difference between a half and 1? That's right, it's a half. And the difference between 1 and 1 and a half is a half. So we need to increase, so add a half each time. Okay, so that would be a rule there, is add 1/2 each time. Here we have 1 1/4, 1 1/2, 1 3/4, 2. What is the difference between all of these? And we're lucky it's the same, okay? The same difference between each one. So 1 1/4 and 1 1/2. What's the difference? That's right, a quarter. So to go from 1 1/2 to 1 3/4, we need to add another quarter. And to go from 1 3/4 to 2, we need to add another quarter. So what we're doing each time is we're adding a quarter. So that's our rule there. Now, see if you can figure out what two numbers are missing in the pattern and what rule will show us what the next two numbers is. So in our next question here, we have some number lines, okay? But the number lines are incomplete. So we're missing some numbers here that we need to fill in. So let's look at the patterns in the line. 710, 720, 730. And we're given the rule, it's to add 10. So 730, what's missing when we add 10? 750, 760, what's missing here when we add 10? Okay, so the second one then, we're given the starting number 615, and then we have a gap. Then we have 605, then we have 600, and then 595. Now, can you see the pattern developing here between these three numbers? And I'm sure that'll help you figure out what your rule is. Is it adding or subtracting, and what, by how much, is it increasing or decreasing? So these three numbers are key, and they'll help you to figure out what two numbers are missing here in the number line. So the final two here now, if you'll give them a go and try and figure out, first of all, what your rule is, and then fill in the missing numbers on the line. So we're finishing up with a very similar challenge than we had yesterday. So we had 1. Here we're going 4, or we have 4. Then we have 9. Then we have 16. Now, here we have 1 by 1, 2 by 2, 3 by 3, 4 by 4. What is going to go in here? So you see that it's increasing. You could say the width and the height is increasing by 1 each time. So what will that result? If you continue this pattern on, what will you have in this? So what I want you to do is draw the squares in, okay? Draw the squares in, and how many squares should there be in the width of this square and in the height of the square? Okay, best of luck with them now today, boys.